Good, well, thank you very much. I'd like to start by thanking the contributors who were all so kind to share their stories with us, and I think they deserve another round of applause. So, thank you. We can't actually see you, but if there are any questions, we'd be very happy to answer them. I can see a hand there.
I can see a hand, yeah. Hello, I'm Rachel. Most of you in this room know me, but I work at the gallery. That was really lovely. A lot of people spoke about this very eloquently in the film, but obviously we are a historical collection. There's not a lot we can do about who got to tell stories in the past. You've spent a lot of time with the collection and with people who love the collection. I was wondering how that might have changed your view about how people can love this collection when they don't necessarily see themselves or their stories on the walls.
I'll go for that one then, Rachel. Yeah, I think it was interesting for, so Alan brought that up and Rosie also brought that up. And I think when you then listen to them talk so passionately about the paintings they picked, so the Caravaggio and the De La Roche, I think it just shows that there's the point that Saffron made. It's all a bit about its humanity on those canvases, and wherever we're from, whatever time we're from, there's a universal truth, isn't there, about love and loss and happiness and sadness, and we all share those wherever we are. And I think that's what showed me the importance of that collection, is that we can all connect with it in one way or another. So I've fallen in love with that place. I don't really want to believe. I'd like to just stick around and talk to people about why they're connecting with painting.
I just think the lovely thing about the National Gallery is you can visit very often, and several of the contributors said it, and several contributors have been visiting since they were children, and there is a sense in which you go ever deeper in what you see. And so while on the face of it things might seem distant and remote and difficult to understand or not relevant to my experience, the very fact that you can walk through those doors as often as you want, as frequently as you want, you can stay as long as you want. We kick you out at 6, but you can really have the experience of getting to know the pictures ever deeper. And I think there's one thing that the film showed, is that people bring their own experience and they interpret what they're seeing in the light of their own life story and their own family and their own connections and their own the events that mark their own history. And in a sense, the pictures don't only stand for themselves, they become a kind of mirror to the experience of the people who are looking at them. And in that sense, the stories the pictures tell become our stories. And it was very eloquently put by several of the contributors that what you're seeing is not just other people's stories and not just things that happened a long time ago, but you're seeing your own story in some way, or what you're seeing you're interpreting through your own life experience. And I think that means that there really is something for everyone in the gallery's collection.
Yes.
Hello, I'm Paul. I work for the National Gallery. Fantastic film, thank you. Were there any stories that you left out because you had so much footage that if you had a bit more time, you wish you could put in? And is there one or two in particular that you could signal, and what was the difficulty of leaving it out in a sense?
We had the opposite problem, which was, we tend to try to make the films 90 minutes long, and when this started to hit 100 minutes, we did think to ourselves, well, okay, are there too many stories? But we just simply couldn't take anybody out. I don't So I don't think there's anybody that we interviewed that wasn't ultimately in the film. I think there were one or two paintings, of course, that we thought would have been chosen. I don't think it matters, but I think we thought that Whistle Jacket, for example, would be a choice. What was exciting for me was that there were some paintings chosen that actually I'd never paid any attention to. I'm glad it wasn't only the big hitters. So no, there's nobody that's on the edit room floor. No.
But there are, I mean, I could easily make another film. The research, when we put the shout out for people to come forward, we had so many people tell us stories, and it broke my heart to not be able to include some of them. I mean, there was somebody who picked the Ugly Duchess, and just, I'll never forget, she described to me on the phone the crepiness of her skin, of the Ugly Duchess, that you could put your hand, you could see the old lady's skin. And I thought, oh my God, you speak about this painting so beautifully, but I'm over length, and I know Phil would just absolutely not let me have another one.
I will share one production difficulty, which was that the initial idea was that it would be the staff of the National Gallery, as broad as possible. We've made so many films with curators and directors, and we wanted to look across the board. But then we had to think to ourselves, well, because we did ask as well our own kind of social media following, and we got a lot of response. So then there's a conversation about, well, do we include members of the public? And then there is the question of what we would broadly call celebrities, who are hard to get, they're in demand. Ultimately, we decided that the film was stronger for being slightly broader and having a sense of, the argument was made within the company that my National Gallery shouldn't just be people who work within the National Gallery, but should be people from outside the National Gallery. So we decided to kind of broaden it out. We could easily have made a film just with the staff, and we could easily make another film tomorrow with 21 different people. I think the overall story, the overall meta story, if you like, would be the same, which is that art should speak and does speak to anyone, and anyone can have a story and be encouraged to talk about art.
Hi there. That was a rather wonderful thing, so thank you. My question, I suppose, is, and it's a bit of an idea, I think it would be lovely for the film to possibly be explored within the gallery in some way, and I'm just wondering about something like as simple as a QR code by that painting, where you would then be able to play the excerpt of the film that's specifically about the interest that that painting had for that individual, and it just would perhaps allow the film to live on in other different ways within the gallery itself.
God, I was just wondering, there's intellectual rights and all that kind of stuff, and things may complicate it. No, we've already used it in a way that was a little bit unexpected, because some of you were at the big birthday evening on Friday night, and you saw the projection on the front of the building, and we used some of the audio from this film, and it was very impressive to just hear the audio and get a sense of people's enthusiasm and love for the National Gallery. So if you're willing, we're going to use it in lots of different ways, and I hope it has a long life. And I hope in 10 years' time we do it all over again, because there'll be a whole new set of responses to the gallery and a whole new set of experiences to recount. And one of the things that I've been at the gallery nearly 10 years as director, but I joined it in '92 as a curator. And just that sense of how the gallery has changed, how it's moved, the kind of things we say about it. There's a core that's always the same, of course, but the kinds of things we say about the gallery, the focus on women artists that was very strong in the film. That's a very different focus from the one that we had when I first joined the gallery. The sense that the gallery pictures, in a way, sort of belong to everyone, and I don't just mean, sort of ownership. I mean, people have their own stories, and I can assure you that not everything that was said in the film was art historically accurate. But in a sense, that's only part of the story. It's about how the gallery pictures have spoken to people and speak to people in different ways at different times. We notice different things. We pick out different things from what we would have done 10 years ago, or 30 years ago, or 100 years ago, for that matter. So, and in a way, for me, that's always one of the fascinating things about museums generally. The museum as an institution. We heard Jonathan Conlon talking a lot about the sort of museum as an institution, and the museum has been constantly alive to changes in society and changes in attitudes, and it's responded very, very effectively. That's why the museum is such a clever institution as a kind of structure. It's able to constantly reimagine itself, reinvent itself, reappraise itself, and speak in different ways, and be spoken to in different ways, and respond to that.
I liked it when I was researching, and one evening Fiona introduced me to, there was a grime artist doing a response to a painting. I think it was on a Friday night, and those are all the things I've learnt as a more regular visitors to the National Gallery now, is all those different interpretations, how everyone is choosing a painting and bringing it into themselves and responding. And I know that there's some kind of, sometimes there's dance, inspired by paintings. There's all these things that I never knew before I started doing this film. So, yeah.
And I think the use of technology these days is absolutely extraordinary, what it can do, what it already is doing. Slightly different, but Ali and I went to Paris a couple of days ago, and we went to see an exhibition called Paris 1874, Inventing Impressionism. And they have a VR recreation of the first Impressionist exhibition, and it was absolutely mind-blowing. You are with the artists in the Dars studio, they're surrounding you, they're talking to you, the art's on the wall. It's remarkable. The difficulty is encouraging people to be engaged with art in the first place. And, one of the things that, as far as we can tell from the research that we did while we were making this program, this film, there's only 7 state schools that teach history of art at A level. I think that's terrible. And so, you need to, there's so much art out there, there's so many ways of engaging with art, but I mean, I've worked in television for 40 years, and it is extremely difficult, if not impossible, almost impossible, to get art programs on television. There are exceptions, but they're few and far between. If you're not introducing people to art, and I think that was one of the messages that came through in the film, and we wanted to come through in the film, which is that it needed your nan, or your granddad, or your dad, or whoever it might be, a school teacher, to bring you to the gallery in the first place. Once you've been brought to the gallery, I think you're gripped, because the art is so wonderful. But you still need that person to engage you in the first place.